Jeanette Stampone was born in a spooky 300-year-old house in the English countryside. She grew up with stories of local legends, pixies, ghosts, and fairies. These childhood experiences inspired Jeanette to write fun, imaginative, and quirky stories. A country girl at heart, Jeanette now lives in regional Western Australia with her husband and two boys. In 2022, Jeanette's debut picture book, Shadow and the Girl, was released by Red Paper Kite. Her second book, The Dragon Guest Handbook, was published by Wombat Books in 2024. But this year, Jeanette was thrilled to release her new junior fiction book, Terry Fide and the Bakery Ghost, published by About Kids Books. Jeanette is an active member of the Society of Children's Book Writers, Illustrators, SCBWI, and is passionate about sharing and creating books for kids of all ages. Welcome back to the Hybrid Author Podcast, Jeanette.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so thrilled that you're back again. You were actually one of the very first guests that we had on the podcast 4 years ago, episode 11.
Oh, really?
I
thought maybe it was like 3. I thought it can't be that long. 4, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
It was episode 11, submitting to traditional publishing houses.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy. But, you know, for those who might have missed that very early episode, you can still go back and listen to it. But can you share with us a little bit more how your author adventure has been?
Yeah, so that would have been when my first picture book came out, Shadow and the Girl. So lots kind of happened since then. Well, it's kind of has, but it hasn't. The publishing industry is very slow. Nothing really moves very fast. So yeah, I'm continuing to write picture books. I've got lots of manuscripts on the go. I had my second picture book published with Wombat Books. That's the Dragon Guest Handbook. That was really fun. I was surprised how quickly that one got picked up. All my other books I've sent out to all these publishers ages, and that was picked up very quickly. So I didn't expect that. I'm also teaching myself to illustrate. I completed an illustrating picture book course with Nina Rycroft. That was amazing because it really helped me in terms of getting character proportions correct and movement. I think my drawing's really improved since then, but it's something I continue to work on. Just sort of following on from that, I did get an illustration included in an anthology, and that was published in collaboration with Daisy Lane and Just Right for Kids.
Yep.
And that was a huge boost for my confidence to know that I was in the right path with that. And now I've got my latest book, Terry Fide and the Bakery Ghost, which is a junior fiction book. And I'm really pleased to see this come out because I worked really hard on it, and I just always believed in it. So to find a publisher that liked it too and believed in it was amazing. So I'm really excited about this one.
Are you submitting your illustrations?
I have done a little bit, not loads, but I've still been building up my confidence with that, I think. But yeah, I'm starting to put work out there a bit. And every so often, because I'm always writing different stories and everything, so every so often I'll find a story that I think I wouldn't mind just trying to illustrate. So I'll do some illustrations and a storyboard, and I'm starting to send those off as well.
That's amazing. And are you in a bit of a groove with your process now in terms of writing stories and submitting them? Are you still submitting from when you last came on talking about submissions to traditional publishing houses? Are you aware of when things are open and you get stuff in, or is it just when you've got stuff going?
I'm really aware. I think, especially when I first started out, you don't know where to submit to or when they're open or anything like that. And I think it's harder now because back then publishers were open. A lot of publishers just open all the time, and now it's much more. You might get one day a year or something, so you really have to keep an eye out on what's going on, follow their Facebook pages or Instagram. But I think the Kid Lit community is really great because if one person spots something, they tell everyone else, and it's really supportive like that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of publishers now as well only really like you to send one story in at a time, but back when I was first submitting, they're a bit more open to maybe having 2 or 3, but now it's most of them are quite strict. One at a time kind of thing. So you have to be really careful what you send and really thoughtful. Yeah,
it's been a while for me actually, so that's really interesting. So well, we are here today to talk about your new book, Terry Fide and the Bakery Ghost. How was that picked up quite quickly, or how long was the submission to that one?
It's had quite a journey, that book actually. So it was a few years ago, I can't remember, maybe two or 3 years ago that I wrote it. And also started submitting it everywhere. I got a few little nibbles with some Australian publishers. Got one Australian publisher that it got really close to, and they said, we're full of junior fiction. That was quite a well-known publisher, so I was very gutted about that. And then it got picked up by a UK publisher, and I was like, yay, finally. And then they had financial issues, so 18 months later they actually dropped it. They dropped a lot of our books and they closed shop. And then I found out about kids' books were looking for junior fiction, and small imprint just opened up, and I thought, give these guys a try. And they said yes.
Yay.
Yeah. So
That's
it's been on quite a
amazing.
journey.
Yeah. So the publishers have changed for the book, but the story hasn't. It's stayed the same.
Yeah, it stayed the same, and there
Yeah.
was quite a bit of editing and everything, but the whole premise of the story is definitely there, still the same as I
Yeah.
originally wrote. Yeah, for
Amazing. Well,
sure.
tell us about the story. I love how it's, it seems like it's a spooky story, and then you've got your author bio. You grew up
Yeah,
in the old spooky house.
the story is about a boy. He's 9 years old. He's called Terry Fide because he's terrified. There's lots of really bad puns in this book. So he's terrified of anything. He has got a ghost pet dog. So that's the only ghost he's not afraid of. But pretty much everything else he's scared of. Ghosts, the dark, rats. But unfortunately, he comes from a ghost detective family. They have a ghost detective business where they work out what's going on with ghosts, what their problem is, and they try and work with the ghost to sort out what's going on. And the dad's in charge, and he tries to train up Terry to be a ghost detective. Terry's not really keen because he's scared, but he does really want to become a ghost detective. And then one day his dad has to leave for Sydney because they've got hauntings all over Australia that he has to deal with. So Terry's left in charge of the town's latest haunting, which is in a bakery. That's just the premise of it. It's really fun and spooky, but not too scary. So it's fun.
And
Yeah.
where did the idea come from and inspired you to write that? Because it sounds fantastic.
Thank you. So yeah, I always wanted to have a go writing junior fiction. The inspiration came from my family home. I grew up in England. It was quite a big house, actually. I'm the youngest of 8.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
God. You
So it was
probably
lots
said
of
that last time, but I don't remember it. But oh my God, 8 children.
yes. So it was a big house to fit us all in. The house is about 300 years old. And it was really spooky, to be honest. It was a really spooky house. It had like a underground cellar, the creaking floorboards, the works, and used to hear lots of noises. I spent a lot of my time just hiding under the covers. And yeah, my brothers and sisters I was actually fascinated with ghost stories growing up in that environment. Ghost stories always really appealed to me. I remember my parents having a book of true sightings or people's accounts of
Right.
what happened in the local area. And I remember reading that and being completely fascinated by that, and then not being able to sleep, of course, all night. So just growing up in that environment and in that old town definitely had an influence. And then the bakery side, my parents actually owned a bakery. So I grew up in that environment as well, with basically delicious baked goods, all those yummy cakes and things like that. So to bring those two elements together was, it's kind of meant to be, really.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. It sounds like it for
Yeah.
sure. And I think it's
Yeah.
really special when you can draw upon your own experiences and share them in a really cool, fun way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the character sounds fantastic. It's an environment where they're supposed to flourish, but then to be
Yeah.
and that's great for young kids too. How did you find, obviously you started out in the picture book genre and have
Yeah.
now notched up to junior fiction. How did you find that balancing act between the two kind of genres and things like
Just very challenging, actually, because I feel most comfortable writing short pieces. Picture books usually for under 500 words, and that's where I feel most comfortable. So jumping to something longer, I mean, junior fiction isn't long. You're talking about my book's about 6,000 to 7,000 words, but for me that was quite intimidating. And I did a course with Jen Storer, which was junior fiction, and the best tip that she gave me, or gave all of us, was just to do, I can't remember how many words she said, but she said a certain amount of words, which wasn't much at all. So I set myself a daily target of 150 words a day, which is literally like 10 minutes work.
Yeah.
And just by doing that little chunk every single day, I got it done. Even though you love writing, you think, I can't be bothered today. I think, well, it's literally 10 minutes. I can do this. And once I started writing, then it would end up being more. So yeah, that really helped. Before I did Jen Storer's course, I was struggling. I tried to write longer things and I just couldn't. By doing that course really helped me out to give me some techniques and skills of how to tackle that and how to tackle the characters and the book in general.
What about language as well? Like to think about, I mean, picture books, it depends, I suppose, because sometimes picture books can almost be for adults. So sometimes the
Yeah.
language can be quite flowery and whatnot. But junior fiction, I don't know many adults that are going to just sit down and read junior fiction.
No.
So did you feel quite restrained with the language that you chose, or not so much?
But probably a bit more free, actually,
Oh,
because you do have
really?
to be so picky with with picture books, you have every word counts in any book that you write, but particularly picture books because it is so limited in your word count. So I felt a bit more freer to describe things. And I think because at the time I had a child that was in that age group, the target age group for the book as well. So I was used to speaking to him and seeing how he used his language and everything. So it felt quite natural in that regard.
That's good. I hope you write it. He was your guinea pig.
I don't want to give him any money. No. But when I had it edited, I realised the publisher sort of said a lot of your sentences are way too long for that age group because they need to chop it down, make the sentence a lot shorter. So that wasn't something I really realised until she had a look at that. So, yeah.
I suppose that's really where the traditional publishing houses come in, or an editor just in general, isn't it? To give you that guidance. In course, did she teach you, like you said about characters and things like plot, especially for an adventure story or anything like that, or no?
So much. A lot of the things she concentrated on was how to brainstorm. That was a big thing with her. How to really just develop your characters. And I think once you start to develop the characters and find out about what makes the character tick, what they look like, who their friends are, and all those types of things, you start developing and you can find out what their fears are, what their likes, what their dislikes, and it kind of starts to grow. It wasn't particularly, this is how you write a junior fiction, step one, step two. It was more about developing your creative mind almost. Yeah, it was a different way of looking at things and I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it.
Yeah. Did you find it quite easy to balance those types of things? Or is that something the editor has helped with as well?
That's something that I had to work out myself. It was almost like putting pieces of a jigsaw together, really, and just making sure you've got some diverse characters in there that have all got different personalities. I've got Terry, who's terrified of everything, and then I've got his best friend Max, who's confident, smart. He likes doing puzzles, so he was a clue collector. Okay. And I've got Avery, who's like annoys the boys a bit, and she doesn't actually believe in ghosts. She thinks it's all rubbish, so she tries to prove them all wrong. But after a while, she kind of starts to think, oh, maybe there's something in this. But she's an inventor and tries to invent some really cool gadgets to help the boys as well. So I think having those different characters' strengths as well is really good in a story, and that helps me. Having those different characters helped me to deal with the mystery and the adventure side. So they all had their strengths. So I think again, it's almost comes all from the characters.
Did you follow like a mystery structure or not really? How some thrillers, it's not really something that I write in, but like sometimes there can be structures in place of this point you're supposed to have this, or maybe that's more adult. I'm not sure. You're like, nah.
Yeah, just kind of just worked out, what was going to happen in each chapter and tried and worked out how, myself. No, there's no kind of formal way of doing it. It was probably all a bit of a mess, to be honest. And then it all kind of came together. And I'm like,
Did you read a lot of this sort of style, or as you were doing it, just to get a feel for what?
Yeah, my son was that age at the time, so I was reading quite a bit to him. And I think as your kids grow older, you sort of get more interested in what they're reading, and so I think that really helped as well to read in the genre of junior fiction.
And is it quite a light-hearted tone, like being junior fiction, or obviously it's not too dark?
That's something that I really wanted to get strongly across. That it's, we're not talking middle grade where it's going to be really terrifying, that the kids are going to be scared at night time. I want the ghosts to be fun, and I wanted the whole premise to be fun, but obviously it's got that spooky element. So the idea of the ghosts is that they're actually trying to help. So they might seem like they're causing a lot of trouble, but they're trying to help. They've got some sort of problem. So it's up to Terry and his friends to try and work out what that problem is. So the ghosts are likable as well, even though they might come across initially as a bit scary. The reader finds out later that actually the ghosts aren't scary at all. They're just trying to help the situation, or help whatever the situation they're in. They're trying to fix it, and they just need some help from Terry and his friends. So it's very light-hearted and silly and fun, and lots, like I said, lots of puns.
Is there like a message in that you want children to take away from that? Because that could almost be applied to, kids at school coming across quite a certain way, and then you realizing, well, actually give them the time of day and maybe listen or help. they're not like that in the end. Is it anything like that, or no? You're just like,
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
story.
for
That's
sure.
what.
It's about, those first impressions that you get of someone, for sure. You can't always judge people when you first meet them, how they're going to be, and you just need to give them time and try and understand them. And I think also from Terry's perspective, because he is so scared, but he has some good friends behind him. So showing that, having that support behind you when you're not feeling very confident, not very sure of yourself, to have some good friends around you is always nice.
And how is like the pacing of the work?
Each chapter was about 500 words, so
Yeah.
it is quite fast paced. There's a lot of action in it. Cliffhanger at the end of each chapter as well, to try and keep the kids. I'm sure if the parents are reading it, they probably hate it because the child will be like, "Can I just have one more chapter?" So it's very fast actually, right from the start. There's action throughout. There's not very often there's quiet parts in it at all, really.
Hmm.
Just go, go, go. And that's something as well that Jen Storer sort of said at
Yep.
age group, like, just to have the protagonist really involved in what's going on and the story moving forward really
Hmm.
fast. So
That's
to keep them
fantastic.
interested.
Have you reached out to Jen to say, look?
Yeah, I did. Well, I did actually when it first got picked up by the UK publisher. I was like, "Yay, Jen!" And she was so happy and like, really
Oh,
supportive. And then I was like, "Actually,
you'll have
got
to tell
dropped."
her.
So I'll have to reach out to her again and say,
Yeah.
"Actually, it's back on again."
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
not back on, it's out now, isn't it?
yeah.
Fantastic. And with obviously, different publisher for this one about kids' books,
Hmm.
and you've been with Wombat before and Red Paper Kite. How has the your publishing been? Has the publishing experience been different from obviously going back and forth with a picture book
Hmm.
to going back and forth with a junior fiction book? Is there many differences?
Yeah,
Longer
it's a
process?
huge longer yeah, for picture books definitely, because you've got to.
Oh, right.
What?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the picture book. I think Wombat Books one took maybe 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years to come out.
Yeah,
In
wow.
comparison to this one, which was a few months. I was just like, my publisher's like,
That's
"Oh,
right.
it's going to be a few months. Hope that's all right." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's just crazy. That's so fast." But there was obviously a lot of editing, getting all the grammar and everything correct with the junior fiction. So there was a lot more work in terms of that side of thing. But I couldn't believe how fast
Mm.
everything happened. And I think Jasmine Barry, she's the illustrator,
Oh,
and
I
she works,
see.
yeah, so she
Amazing.
works really fast and she's done an amazing job. So I think that helped to have someone that was so efficient and
Mm.
did amazing illustrations. Whereas picture books, they just take a lot longer to illustrate. And I think because there are so many picture books, whether that makes a difference, it takes a long time for that to sort of go through why each one waits their turn.
Yeah, shout out Jasmine. She's got quite a few books out.
Yeah, very busy girl.
Do you have any overall advice you want to share to aspiring authors who want to write in junior fiction or picture book authors or authors in general or
um,
illustrators?
I've probably said this lots of times, but just try and find your crew, a group that will support you and will encourage you and celebrate your highs and commiserate with your lows. So that's really important to have that support behind you. In terms of junior fiction, the major things that I've taken away were: take your time to brainstorm. Don't just jump into the story. It's very tempting when you've got an idea. "Oh, I've got a great idea. I've got a character," and just start writing. I mean, that might work for some people, but for me, just have a few weeks to brainstorm and let it
Mm.
mull around in your head. And it just made so much difference to do that process that Jen taught us about,
Yeah,
creative and just letting yourself play, really. I think as
that's
writers, we can take things too seriously. We can think we need to get this work done. And sometimes we just need to sit down and just play, even just draw our characters, even if you're not an illustrator, just draw them and have fun with them and work out who they are. I think that was really important, and it's a really nice part of that process. And make sure that you have, for junior fiction, a light idea for a plot, something that's fun, something that's not too dark, and making
yeah.
characters relatable to the age group. So yeah, those would be my tips for sure.
Oh, they were amazing. No, absolutely. Are you a walker? Do you do any walking
Yeah, I do
to
do a
let
bit
things
walking. Yeah, ideas will come when I'm walking as well. When I'm
to?
cooking, usually at the most inappropriate times when I'm cooking dinner.
No, that's fantastic because I think and I'm guilty of that as well. You just when you switch over to looking at this in a different way, either
Yeah,
career wise or trying to make money or just yeah, you can lose that sense of play as well and
yeah,
fun and why you did it in the first
yeah.
place.
So important.
Especially, I think, in children's fiction.
Yeah.
You have fun with it.
You've got to almost put your child hat on and be a kid for a
Yeah.
little while.
So what age would this be for, junior fiction?
A 6 to 9 year olds, but you could go a bit older than that. End of primary school probably would suit.
Fantastic. Well, everyone is dying to know where can they buy Terry Fide and the Bakery Ghost and anything, all your other picture books and things like that on and offline.
Probably the best place is just to go to my website actually, because I've got all my Instagram and Facebook links there, and then information about my books and all those links. So that's JeanetteStampone.com.
Fantastic.
On offline, any ask in your bookstore, ask in your libraries, just but yeah, online's probably the easiest.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Jeanette. It was wonderful, and congratulations on all the success in the junior fiction book. We can't wait to see it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again.